everyone. My name is Brittany Levers. I am based in New York City, and I am a Google Cloud Enterprise sales recruiter. But today, I would love to introduce you to Salone Monet. So Salone is the founder and creative behind color inclusive news at the shoe brand Salone Monet. Previously, Salone worked in political PR, creating digital content for the federal government and trade associations. So while working in a shoe and accessory boutique, Salone took the initiative to create her own nude inclusive brand. And then so this brand celebrates all skin tone types and has adorned the feet of a few big names like Beyoncé, Gabrielle Union, and Keke Palmer, just to name a few. So I'd like to introduce you formally, Salone.
Hi, Brittany. Good to see you.
Good to see you. And you know what I meant to say in an introduction? I would like to say that you're like the Rihanna of the shoe fashion industry.
I like that comparison. I will accept it.
So before we get into things, before we get into learning more about your brand and how you got into Nude shoes, I want to learn about your relationship to shoes. How do they make you feel when you wear your favorite pair?
Yeah, shoes to me are a very important part to every outfit. I like to say that like a pair of shoes is really the only part of your outfit that you can see without looking in a mirror. So at really any point in your day, you can look down at your feet, and if you like your shoes, it sparks joy. And honestly, in today's day and age, anything that makes you happy is a personal win. So I think that they're very, very important.
Awesome. And then when it comes to building your wardrobe, some people have different thought processes. So do you build your wardrobe around your shoes, or do you build your wardrobe or the vice versa, if that makes sense? So for me, I build my wardrobe around the shoes that I have.
Yeah, so the idea behind my shoes, or having a nude shoe in general, is that they work as a pedestal to celebrate any outfit or any person. You can kind of think of them as almost like a base of foundation before you put on makeup. It's a base to put on any great outfit. I say that a great pair of nude heels will match, the most important part of any outfit, and that's the wearer. So they create a seamless silhouette on the leg, and you can wear them with anything because they're matching you. So if you're, a fashionista and you typically wear really bright colors or bold prints, having a nude heel is going to take you a long way, and you won't really have to think about necessarily searching for a specific shoe to pair with your typically, brighter wardrobe. Or if you're just someone who, typically just wants something that's going to, make a outfit look chic and you're heading to just a happy hour, a nude heel is also going to take you a long way. So I think that, with a nude heel, it can go both ways. You can take a nude heel and have a neutral outfit, or you can have a bold outfit, or you can have a conservative outfit, or a really dressy outfit.
Yes, I keep telling people like nudes and neutrals are the way to go because you don't have to overthink about what's going to match, what's going to look good. Yes. And I would love to talk about what inspired you to start a nude line. I know you started about I remember when we were talking, and that it took you about 8 years from product to from start to finish. So what inspired you? Because I just remember nudes weren't really a thing. Well, nude heels weren't really a thing. And I never seen anything. Well, we've never seen anything catered to our skin color. So what inspired you then, and why a nude shoe line?
I mean, it's basically what you just said. There wasn't really a nude out there that was catered to our skin tone. I've always loved shoes. I mean, there were years that I would go to school with 2 different matching sneakers to coordinate with my outfit. I think that it's always been something that I've used to express myself. So even after starting a career in what wasn't fashion, I still had a part-time shoe job just to basically have, the discount. But I ended up getting the idea for my company. Mm-hmm. And so, I really just felt like, we were told that we needed to offer nude heels to every customer that came in, but we only sold this one color nude, which was for me, the light bulb moment. And it took a long time to really get from the ideation stage to actually having a product. But I ultimately just thought having a nude inclusive line of doing 6 different colorways was just a really strong idea that it didn't exist in the market at the time when I first started it. And so I just really felt like this is something that I personally wanted for my wardrobe. And I felt like if I wanted it, there would be other women out there that also felt like they were overlooked by this very limited definition of nude. I mean, even to this day, if you were to go and search for a nude heel, typically you're going to be given what I call the one color fits all, or previously the Band-Aid color, where you're just kind of told like, this is the tone, this is it, this is what skin's supposed to look like. And we all know that that's just simply not the case.
Yes, I still struggle to find Band-Aids my skin color.
Right.
Like,
Great,
go ahead.
I was just going to say there's a great Black-owned company, Browndages, that does it really well.
Noted. Thank you so much. And then you noticed that it was a long process. Can you talk about that process from pitch to launch? I would love to learn, like the good and the bad, and and how you became to be so successful within this process.
Yeah. So, one of the issues that I had starting out is, one, I kind of let this idea of just having a totally solidified business plan get in the way of really just trying to make shoes. And so after I got over that kind of initial mental block of thinking that I needed to have, every single thing written down on paper before actually starting the shoe line, I then actually went and tried to start having, working with vendors and trying to find a supply chain. And then that proved to have its own issue, because here I was not having any connections in the fashion industry, not having any connections to any sort of manufacturing, to then try to, get these manufacturers to believe in me as a brand. And let me tell you, they were not impressed with like my, email pitch and a landing page. They wanted to know that there was going to be orders behind, the collection that they would be spending time in developing. And so a lot of companies had, minimum order quantities that they wanted me to put down, a down payment on. And I was bootstrapping at the time. So just finding a factory that was willing to do the back and forth of developing a collection with me without necessarily having, the proof of concept yet or the proof of demand was its own, uphill battle.
Got it. And how did you establish those connections? How did you get like these manufacturers to believe in your vision?
I think that, one of the biggest things that I think was a huge breakthrough with my brand is I actually moved to New York City. So it expanded my network of people in the fashion industry. And then another thing was I actually started doing exploration trips. And instead of just simply relying on like hoping that someone responds to my email, I was able to go and meet with people and, shake hands and look them in the eye. And I felt like that definitely, helped with the relationship, because at the end of the day, they want to believe in you as a person and as a brand. And if you don't necessarily have a brand yet, they need to believe in you as a person. So I think that, having done an exploration trip also was a huge advantage to the development process.
Got it. And then I know, again, you had mentioned it was kind of a struggle to get these, but how did, these connections. But what was like? Can you talk about like the nitty gritty of navigating that pushback? As Black women, we had faced so much adversity in all of our ideas until someone else comes up with an idea, then everybody else wants to do it. And when we've been trying to say this across all industries, especially in fashion beauty, for forever. So, like, how did you navigate that? Like, what was the grittiness of navigating that pushback?
I mean, it happens at every step in the way, from, trying to talk to angel investors and trying to get them to understand my idea. I feel like the initial response is just kind of like, their eyes will glaze over and just be like, I don't want to have anything to do with this. I mean, it's nothing that immediately appeals to me. So there must not be any value in it, I think, is a lot of response. So I just have to get used to telling my story over and over again and just feeling confident in that I believe that this is something that's, powerful and can really affect change, and could be a huge success. And then just some of the things that aren't even, that are just kind of like, a lesser of an issue would be even just explaining to, the suppliers who don't necessarily have this issue of finding a nude heel, but getting them to understand what the issue is that I'm trying to overcome, and try to find these different, different upper materials or different fabrics, or try to source different materials. I mean, I've had factories that literally, after I painstakingly explained to them, okay, I want, all these different color browns. Here are some of the Pantones that I'm looking for, from beige all the way to deep pigmented brown. And them still in response send me like cheetah print, which of course, like, you're wearing a great shirt. Black women do like cheetah print, but then they would be like, oh, Black women love these prints. They're going to do really well. And it's like, okay, clearly you're totally missing what I'm trying to do here. So it's just like, it really, because it doesn't necessarily affect the people who are in decision-making, positions, I think that the assumption is that it's not something that has value, and it's just simply not the case.
Got it. Do you ever see a future for having more Black ownership within manufacturing so we can avoid some of these complications when trying to pitch, our ideas to become more size inclusive, to be more color inclusive? Do you envision that? Or what does that kind of look like?
I definitely think it is the future. And I think that, there already are a lot of businesses that are trying to not just be inclusive on, like the design side, but also be inclusive from like the manufacturing side. And I think that it's definitely important. It's a process. So, finding and developing these supply chains is going to be, is going to be key.
Awesome. And then being one of the very few nude shoe brand companies that are successful and out here really serving for Black women, how do you continue to implement and influence inclusivity in the industry?
Yeah. So I think, just being the simple fact of existing, and is a lot of ways a statement, because it's showing that there was this blind spot that was overlooked for decades. And I mean, I grew up reading fashion magazines and hearing that you're supposed to have a nude heel, that this is a staple that every woman needs in her wardrobe, akin to a little black dress or a pair of jeans. You need a nude heel. And so being told that over and over again, but then not backing it up with an actual nude offering, I think just really speaks to, this huge blindside and this oversight. So just like the mere fact that, something so that could be missed, I think just speaks to, the opportunity here that there are for other Black brands and other designers. And I think that, a lot of buyers and consumers are too just kind of exhausted by the mistakes that you see time and time again by a lot of these larger fashion houses. So they're looking for other options, and they're looking for, options that really speak to them. So I think that in a lot of ways, that it's fashion, but just because they're looking for something different too, in a lot of ways, it's political.
Got it. And for those of us who are not involved in the fashion industry and are really naive to it, what is like the buying process? What does that look like when you're talking about larger name houses and buying your product at wholesale and selling that? What does that look like?
So from like a retailer standpoint in wholesaling, there's different avenues to, getting your product to market. You could do it direct to consumer through a website or through a brick and mortar, or you can take the wholesale route. And so if you do wholesale, that offers a lot of brand clout to be in certain doors. There's a certain amount of esteem that comes along with it. So it often is nice just to have like a few specific doors that, that are known for offering, certain luxury goods. And so if you are going the wholesale route, you basically are selling your product at a wholesale price. So not at the direct to consumer price, but a little bit discounted, so that way it factors in the ability for the retailer to then make a profit as well. So they obviously need a percentage of the cost.
Got it. Got it. And I kind of want you to speak this out loud and claim it. And what future do you see for Salone Monet and your brand? And who do you see yourself partnering with, whether large or small brands?
Yes.
Where do you want to see Salone Monet extend and expand outside of just outside of online shops? What does that look like for you?
So the most exciting, partnership that's coming up soon is actually we're going to be partnering with Bloomingdale's very shortly. So I'm really very excited about that partnership and that opportunity. But in addition to that, as far as, collaborations, I think that because this new, inclusive offering has been missed by a lot of brands, it would be wrong of them just to start now overnight putting together different nude offerings that they haven't done in the past. So if you have like a nude silhouette and you've been offering a nude shoe or like a nude undergarment for season after season and calling it nude and it's beige, and then now all of a sudden that there's a demand for diversity and this, inclusion is trending, to now all of a sudden create these nudes in different color options, which would have taken no time or no time nor resources from you in seasons past. I think that that's a little bit unethical. And so I think that it would make sense for you to be partnering with brands like Salone Monet or people who have been doing and offering these services to our community and to people who, are looking for a nude shoe. And so I think that there's a lot of opportunity for partnerships with larger names, because I think that the value of the nude is understood, But as far as how to do it in a way that makes sense to elevating and edifying Black designers is what really needs to be hashed out here. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity. So that's what I'm claiming for myself is I see a future where I have different product offerings through collaboration, at different price points in order to be able to, grow my brand and, have access to additional consumers.
Oh, I love that. And on the topic of additional consumers, can we talk about a size inclusivity? Because especially now, as we're becoming more progressive, shoes are now becoming more gender inclusive. Do you ever plan to make more extended sizes? What does that look like? And I would love for you to really talk about that process and what an inventory and thought process when we're thinking about shoe size.
Yeah. So I get emails practically every day asking for extended sizes, from having a 5.5 to having a 13.5. And so it's definitely, I believe for sure going to be a next iteration of the brand. It makes sense that if I'm going to be a color inclusive brand, that I also think about size inclusivity. The thing that from a development standpoint, the reason it becomes difficult is it's one, you have to develop every single last for the shoe. And the last is the size of the shoe. That's what the shoe is actually built around. So it becomes expensive. But then also from being able to have an inventory management standpoint too, it also becomes difficult because I know you may go to my website and say oh, she has 3 different styles of shoes. But when you think about it from an actual size standpoint, I offer 6 different sizes and then I offer 6 different colorways. So for just a collection of 3 styles, that's still over 200 specific products that I'm selling. So when you add additional sizes, that number goes up and up. So if I were just to have an inventory of 1 of everything that I sell, then that's still 200 different items. So it just becomes a very difficult inventory management standpoint, especially for a small business. But that's not to say that it's not something that I want to do. It's just something that I have to grow into. It's not, I can't, I don't have the resources to do it overnight and be able to offer additional widths, which I would love to do as well, to do wides and narrows. It just takes time.
Got it. And can you kind of break down what those sizes because the thing is because they're a lot of the shoe industry is they're not as exclusive as it needs to be just yet. And as we're shopping, a lot of online retailers or brick and mortar retailers brands, they just don't offer those widths and narrows and widths. So what sizes are available that are out there? Because someone might be wide foot and realize that there's different sizes to widths. And different sizes of fit. So I would just love to learn about the shoe in its entirety and how we think about shopping for shoes.
Yeah. So, there definitely are, there's narrow, standard, wides, there's definitely different widths options. And, as far as additional sizes, I think that as you mentioned, gender is a spectrum. So what someone who wants to wear a heel, that definition is changing and evolving. And so people definitely want, the option to have, a larger shoe, where the industry may have not identified these people before and included them when they're buying practices. So I think that there's definitely going to be options, growing the idea of inclusivity in the shoe industry. And this is for sure just the beginning. It just, when it comes to developing all the sizes and then having them in an inventory standpoint and then making it profitable, it's definitely going to be a time. It take a few seasons to get there.
Got it. And then I just want to let the audience know, in a little bit shortly, we're going to start asking Q&A questions. So get those questions queued up for me, so we can ask Salone anything in regards to Salone Monet. And then, so I want to talk about okay, so we're talking about the shoe buying process and the different sizes. So I often think about the hassle of shopping for a bra, ensuring the right fit, making sure it's comfortable. And I experience the same pain points when it comes to shopping for heels because I'm Jamaican. Most Jamaicans are flat-footed. Can you talk about how to shop for heels and how they should feel on your feet?
Yeah. So, when creating a nude heel, I wanted to have it be something that was wearable and offered a certain amount of wearability. So I'm thinking about my designs from a wearability standpoint, and I want them to be comfortable. So, just in general, when you're looking for a shoe, you want it to be well balanced. You want to make sure that there's support underneath the ball of the foot, that you feel like you can stand confidently in it. And one of the things that I do with all of my designs is I add an additional recessed platform underneath the ball of the foot. If you've ever worn heels before, you probably are aware that when you have that extra support that a platform provides, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable a lot longer, as instead of just being basically the ball of the foot hitting directly on the ground, which can be very, very uncomfortable, especially for long periods of time. So it's definitely something that I think about when I'm designing.
Awesome. And another follow-up question. I've been navigating your website a little and I noticed there's a sub-tab for apparel. Do you ever see yourself in the future of entering the world of apparel within Nude? Like I often think of Skims and I would like to see more brands cater to Black women when it comes to nude basics, nude undergarments. So do you see yourself entering that world in fashion?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it totally makes sense. I like to think that of my brand as a cross section between style and utility. So anything that fits into that space is where I think that we can really innovate and create. And so clothing and lifestyle wear definitely fit into that. And so we just launched a t-shirt that has, it's not a nude color offering per se, but it celebrates the wearer. It's all about celebrating your own personal skin tone, whatever that is. And so it's really just like, I'm actually wearing it. It has a thoughtful cutout where your skin is designed to show through. And that's basically, just saying that nude is not a specific color, even though if you search nude heel right now, they're going to try to tell you it's a color, but we all know that it's not. So it's just a response to that. And I think that we also have some additional designs coming out in the future that also have like a similar thoughtful design process of it being about really celebrating the wearer and not just like clothing the wearer or trying to cover up the wearer, but really celebrating their own personal skin that they're in.
Oh, incredible. Absolutely incredible. Okay. So I have like two more follow-up questions in regards to that. Um like what have you had formal experience in apparel essentially, and how are you drawing inspiration from your shoes and implementing them into your clothing? Do you plan on using the same process of finding Pantones? What does that look like in apparel? Because I know it could be slightly different. I'm not sure. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, so we're not using necessarily specific skin colors as inspiration for the apparel line. It's
Mhm.
more about how we're interpreting what it means to be nude. It's more about like celebrating like nude as more of a state of undress and like a personal, your personal skin color and celebrating that than it is necessarily about matching
Mm.
to the skin color. So one of the inspirations was Pantone, but more of like the branding standpoint. So that's where the idea of the cutout comes from. If you think about like a Pantone swatch, they're usually a square with like a number underneath it that corresponds with a specific color. So instead of saying like, this is a specific color, what's more nude than actually showing your skin? So that's kind of more of the inspiration for the apparel than it is necessarily doing, a skin to match color offering.
Got it. Okay, awesome. I want to jump into audience questions. We have a question from Lauren, and she wants to know what's your biggest aha moment during your journey as an entrepreneur?
One of the biggest aha moments that I had was that offering the neutral color offerings didn't necessarily mean that it had to be skin matching. I thought that when I launched my line, everyone was going to buy a shoe that closely matched her skin tone. But instead, I'm just realizing that like because these color offerings have never existed on the market before, that people really just appreciate it, like Brittany mentioned earlier, having neutral options. So if you do have a neutral wardrobe, having any neutral color is going to be of value to you. And so you might just want, a deeper brown than necessarily what your skin is. And you will be able to find that in my shoe line.
Got it. All right. Our next question is from Emma. So, how did you support yourself while starting the company? If you were working, how did you find the time and energy? That's a great question.
Yeah. So when I first started the idea behind the company, I was still working full time at a PR firm, and using the time, in the evenings, the 5 to 9, as we say, to work on the brand and develop the shoes. And then I actually moved back into with my parents to try to be able to funnel even more money into the company when I spent all of my personal savings. I'm still working. And then after that, thinking I launched my company and thought that like, oh, I'm just going to be able to immediately do that full time. And that was not even close to the case. So I actually was working on the business and working at a juice store, and I was serving literally pressed juices um, until I was able to get my business off of the ground. And in that time as well, I became a mother. So I was also put in the standpoint or put in the situation of trying to decide, okay, am I going to work and send my son to daycare, or be at home with him and not choose daycare and then also work in my company? And we were also moving at the time. So it was, between me and my partner, we decided that I would stay home, work on the brand, and be the primary child care provider during the day, and then also work in my company.
Got it. And I have a follow-up question to that. Outside the support from your partner and your family, how did you garner additional support, if you did, at least, when it comes to resources or just like bouncing off ideas and brainstorming? What other support did you have in this process?
Yeah, I actually, the Google team has a special place, I feel like, in my story, because when I moved to New York, I went to a Harlem's Fashion Row Google Summit, and that's where I was able to make some really incredible connections that really kind of got the ball rolling for raising the awareness of my company. So I think that, it's definitely been, being able to network and trying to find people out there that are really helpful and, can help me and reach back and be able to assist me in helping me bring my company and to help me develop my company.
Awesome. Okay. And then our next question is from Kimberlyn. This is great. What is the best type of heel for someone with high arches?
Oh, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
So if you have high arches, you definitely are going to want to heel with that has more arch support, and so our flat would be the best option for you.
Got it. And what about the reverse with someone who's flat-footed?
If you're flat-footed, then having the ball support is going to be the most important. So I think that honestly, any of the options would be any of the heel options that we offer right now would be helpful.
Okay. So, and then we have a question from Farah. Any advice to those of us who might get discouraged by the process of starting up our own brand?
Yeah, this is a really good question. I mean, I was literally this morning delivering, like fulfilling some of my own delivery. I have a warehouse with some of the stuff I actually still store in house, and I deliver and I pack and ship myself. And I was on my way to FedEx, and I was second guessing myself. And I'm like, do I have what it takes to continue to grow this brand? So, I mean, like, you really do have to constantly find your sources of inspiration, and constantly remind yourself that, people with far less have done it. And so if, the people who've done it have already done it, then you can definitely do it.
Got it. And do you have any, and I don't know, this is like a follow-up question and it's kind of generic and it could be applicable, I guess, because depending on what industry you're trying to start a business in, but do you have any general transferable advice to give to anyone who's trying to start their own brand, from like research to process to
Yeah.
stakeholders to be considering when you're trying to develop this?
One of the biggest helps that I like to give, like really anyone who's developing their own brand or company, is go to your local library. I know it sounds really antiquated, but anytime I'm putting together my pitch deck or updating, what my, the specifics about my consumer base is, and trying to understand those numbers and what the demand is for my industry, I've always gone to my librarian, and there's always like helpful people there whose their entire knowledge base and is about researching and finding these answers to the questions that you have. So, specifically in New York City, there is a business central library that, has access to databases that on your own you probably wouldn't be able to afford, because it's thousands and thousands of dollars just to be able to access this information. But on top of it, there's someone there who are research professionals that can help you find this specific information. And so when I stopped really trying to do it myself, but look to people who are experts on the specific subject matter, that was really, really helpful.
Got it. That actually would be additionally helpful, because I think about people who don't live in fashion capitals, that are like New York City, or even other cities that would prioritize fashion like LA or Chicago. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's a great start if you're not immersed in it in your physical environment.
Totally. And I think that most libraries would have access to these databases too, even if like you say, you're not in a fashion capital.
Got it. And additionally, with these databases, is there any books you can recommend, or any other people, especially specific to your brand, and specific to people who are interested in getting into shoes, or the latter? Do you have any book recommendations or online resources?
Yeah. One of the books that I read a couple summers ago that really was an inspiration to me was the Ann Lowe biopic. Not biopic, but biography. Sorry, been too much online streaming. But she was one of the dressmakers for one of the first ladies. And I think that it just really, to me, it just was an inspiration, because it just, it speaks to what people had the ability to create with far less resources. So I think that it's just about finding what sparks, your inspiration.
Got it. Got it. And our next question is from Sophia. She says, "Thanks for coming today, Salone. Based on your experience in establishing Salone Monet, what advice would you give to your younger self?"
What advice would I give my younger self? Stay gainfully employed longer is what I would give my younger self. That would be the main advice.
Yeah, and then because you did not stay gainfully employed when you were younger, how did you find balance, just emotionally, while you were, balancing your family, your brand, and work? How did you sustain yourself emotionally?
I mean, to this day, I try to practice yoga as much as possible, just because we do just live in such, these are highly stressful times. And so I think that, even if it wasn't for the fact that I'm, an entrepreneur and started my own business, it would still be very important for me to have some sort of seek a meditative state regularly. That's just been so, so helpful to me in helping find balance, is just regular yoga practice.
Got it. Got it. All righty. And then, so those are all our Q&A questions. Salone, I wanted to give you the platform to see if you wanted to leave anything with the audience today. Expel I always like to end words of affirmations, essentially. And so, especially for women, what affirmations do you like to use when you're affirming your loved ones and yourself? Our better question, what are your affirmations for this year for yourself? Especially given the year and a half that we've had.
Yeah, that's so funny that you asked that, because I do regularly affirm my son. Being a young Black boy in today's world, I think that it's very important that we regularly give him takeaways of positivity. And so one of the things that I tell him is that, he's a leader among his peers, that he's kind, that he listens. But I never even really thought of personally applying it to myself, which is so crazy. But I think as a mom, it's so much easier to, see the positive in other people and reaffirm that than it is to see it in yourself. But I would like to also tell myself those things as well, that you are kind,
Yes.
and you are a leader among your peers. And I need to remind myself to affirm myself in that way.
I'm going to keep you accountable.
Please do.
Awesome. And then I want to thank everyone for coming out and showing up today. And if you haven't already, please check out Salone Monet. She has an incredible line. and for for literally every single type of lifestyle. So if you're into the kitten heel pumps or something a little bit more daring like a stiletto, there is something for everyone. So I want to take the time to tell everyone to have a great day, and thanks for showing out.